Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. Today we're going to do some work in the garden together and I'm excited for it. I had knee surgery earlier this spring and I'm still recovering from it, but things are getting a little bit better. So if you see this weird green tape on my knee, it's just helping with my kneecap moving correctly. So, anyways, my name is Soleil and I garden in mid-Michigan and we're here in a zone 5B. And we're on the west side of my house right now, and the challenge that I have on this side of the house is that obviously it gets that strong western sun after we have shade in the morning. And the other challenge that I have here is that it's kind of a narrow strip. I did widen it just a little bit recently so that I had a few more inches, and I may do that a little bit further again in the future. But for now, what I want to focus on is trying to continue to, kind of hide the utility area. So I've done some work in this area so far, but I have some more to do. I have planted a superstar Spirea right here, and the challenge with it is it's supposed to grow 3 to 4 feet tall and wide, but I don't think that's going to be quite as big as I really want it to get. So I'm going to move that. I'm going to dig that out. It's also planted just a little bit too far back. One of the things you want to be careful of is under the eaves that you have, the rain just won't get to your plant's roots. So with regards to this plant, I'm going to dig it out. And then I found this Viburnum, and I have one of these as well in my back garden that I really love. This one is, let me tell you a little bit about it first. So this is the opening day double file Viburnum, and it grows in full sun to part shade. And that's really important because, again, this bed doesn't get a ton of sun, but it does get that late afternoon sun. And the other viburnum that I have is planted facing west on my fence line and has done fairly well there. So I think this will be good. And I got this one on clearance. It was originally $27.98, so that made it about $14. And it gets 6 to 8 feet tall and wide. So I'm really excited about that. Now, what I do plan to do, because it is going to be planted fairly close to my air conditioner unit here, is I want to make sure that I limit up so that it goes up over that. But hopefully it will grow out in the front so that it hides the air conditioning unit from the street and a little bit from the side as well. It won't be perfect, but it's definitely going to be better than what I have right now. And fall is an excellent time to get your shrubs planted, and tonight we're supposed to get some rain. So I like to watch the weather forecast and take advantage whenever I see an opportunity. Okay, so first I'm just going to scrape back some of the mulch from around this shrub, and my guess is it's not super rooted in because I just planted it last year and this is a very dry area, but we will see. I have my handy dandy perennial root slayer shovel, which I absolutely adore, highly recommend, and it's going to make quick work of this. One of the things I'll have to be careful with in regards to replanting this shrub is making sure that I don't have any lily of the valley rhizomes attached to the roots, because this bed has lily of the valley in it. So I'll probably keep it within this area if I can, but I will definitely check the roots and see if I can get them all out. Then I have an opportunity to plant it somewhere else. I'm just going to pull this shrub out. You can see how healthy the roots are on there, nice and white and ready to go. When I bought this, I got it at Lowe's. It's a first edition shrub, and it was definitely underwatered. So you can tell that a lot of this is new growth. I've had it in part shade, sitting out in front of my house for about a week now, just kind of rehabbing it a little bit there. Now I'm just going to be pulling a couple of these plants out if I can. I might have to dig. Yeah. Because I want to, again, move this hole a few inches forward from where it was. And these irises that are over here have been here for a while. They bloom a little bit, but they don't do that great. I'm just going to pull a couple of those out because they're going to get damaged otherwise. You can see this soil here is really dry. So before I put the plant in, I am going to water the hole. As I do this, I'm just going to let you guys know, because I get asked this question a lot whenever I use hoses, like, what do I have here? This is a Giraffe Tools retractable garden hose, and the watering head comes with it. There's actually a link in my description, so you can see what I'm talking about if you wanted to look at it. Okay, this doesn't look root bound at all, so I'm just going to get it into the hole and see how I like the depth of it. So you definitely don't want to put a shrub too deep, but I think I want to get just a skosh more out from under there. Also, just a safety note, if you're digging near utilities and you don't know where your lines are, be very careful and make sure you call somebody like Miss Dig. There's a utility place that will come out and tell you, where your lines are, and will mark them with flags for you so you don't have to worry about hitting them. All right, I think that looks good. So because the roots are healthy, I'm just going to backfill with the native soil here. No need to amend the soil. No real need to put fertilization in there. You can if you want to, but this is going to be the perfect time for the roots to just begin to grow into the soil and for it to get settled into its new home. So you really don't want to try to get it to grow. All right, I think that looks good. We're going to water it in now. Now the other thing that's nice about this plant is that it is also a little deer resistant, because the leaves have a texture to them that they don't really like. And we definitely have deer in the neighborhood, so hopefully that will keep them from browsing it. But this will have beautiful blooms on it in the spring. Maybe next spring, maybe not, because next year will be its first full year in the ground. But I think this is going to be a good improvement in this area, and I love the large leaves on it. I did forget to tell you guys the hardiness zone on this. It is hardy in zones 5 to 8. Just really making sure to give it a nice deep watering. And again, it's supposed to rain tonight, so that's going to be excellent. All right, I'm just gonna clean this stuff up and then we'll get on to our next planting project. Next up, we're just gonna do a couple of different things here. So I planted these heleniums last fall, and I cut back all of the lilacs that were in this area last year. My goal is to put something else in this bed that can have some height and kind of fill up this brick area right here. But I need to wait for the roots and for the lilac to really die. So I've just been cutting it back this year and keeping cutting it back. And I think next year there might be an opportunity for that to happen. But for now, I picked up this this is called the Spin Top Orange Halo Blanket Flower. And this is a perennial. It was originally $12.98 on sale for $7. And I noticed it had some of that webbing around the roots that I've seen in many of them. So I pulled that off, and I think that's why it wasn't doing great. But this is full sun. It gets 18 inches high by 24 inches wide, and it is hardy down to negative 40 degrees. So a very hardy plant, and is a perennial. And as I understand it, this Spin Top Orange Halo will provide quite a bit of bloom power once it gets going. So what I want to do is plant this in this area, and then I'm also going to move the helenium that I planted behind the hose over here, because I want to have more of that in the same area where I have this one, and that way we'll have just some more of those warm fall colors in this particular bed. So we have lots of geranium in here, and this did really poorly in this bed during the drought. It just is too dry over here and gets too much sun at the same time. This geranium does like part sun is okay, but part shade, and shade is much better for it. So I'm just pulling some of that out. It has recovered a little bit after we got the rain last week, but overall, I'm just not that happy with it in this bed. It was fine when the lilacs were kind of covering it up and giving it a little bit of shade, but now it's really not looking great. So a lot of times you have to make things look a little bit uglier before they can start to look prettier. And that's kind of where I'm at right now with this garden bed. So you can see this is where the lilac was planted before, and I'm just going to dig a hole for this plant right in front of it. Because it's kind of a low grower, I think this will be really nice in the front of the border here. And I would dig out the lilac roots, but honestly, it's a lot of work. So I'm just going to try to keep killing it the slow way. So I just want to show you, I think you can see a little bit of the webbing that is around these roots that's kind of strangling it. So I just want to make sure to, you see that right there? It's part of the plug. So I just want to make sure to pull some of that out so that it can grow really well. Probably won't get a ton of immediate impact from this, but a lot of things that I do in my garden are about thinking for the long term and what it might look like next year. I will definitely get some beautiful blooms on it this year, just not as much as I will next year. All right, let's move the other helenium over here. This one's just struggling a little bit because it's too close to the overhang, so it doesn't get enough water. not looking as good as the other one, so I'm going to move this one. This has been kind of a random assortment of plants in this area, just trying things out to see what does good in this bed because it has such a strange soil, sun, and water combination. So I think what I'm going to do is put this one down a little further over here. See what we got in here. I might have to contend with after I pull this stuff back. Looks like there's a small buckthorn tree that's been trying to grow up in here. Okay, wow, didn't expect that. This is going to be so much happier over here. After I get this one in, we'll water both of these plants in. Once these are established, both of these plants are quite drought tolerant. That's one of the reasons why I selected them for this particular area. Awesome. I think these look great. So if you've been watching my channel, you know that I have what I call filler plants that I use throughout the garden. And these green and white hostas are one of them. I also have dianthus around the garden that I have split over many, many years. And so the very small leaved dianthus are also right here in this bed. However, what I've been doing is creating a border edge with some of these beautiful little blue scabiosa flowers this year because I got them on clearance and I think that they look great, and they're just a better fit for this garden along the garden border edge. So what I did was I found two more of these plants. They're a little bit larger. I'm gonna see when I look at these if I can divide them in half and make 4 plants out of them and dig up these plants that are along the front here, just so that I have that continued repetition of the blue scabiosa plant. And this one is a perennial, and it is called the butterfly blue pincushion flower. And it is, I got this for $4 each one of them. It was originally $7.98, and they grow 15 inches tall by 15 inches wide, and they're hardy down to zone 4. They get about, like I said, 15 inches wide. So I'm really excited about trying to continue to make this garden bed look a little bit more cohesive and planned. That's the thing about gardens, you know. You can just keep on working on them and changing them as you go, and use what you have until you find something that you love more. Now before I dig up these two other plants, I'm going to make sure I can divide these. So first I'm just going to pull back some of this. It seems to be cocoa coir, I think. Could be peat. I think it's peat actually, from this plant, to see how it looks. I definitely think there's more than one plant in here. I think what I'm going to do though is, because they're so large, is I can put one there and then I will put one next to it and perhaps divide them next year if I decide to do that. But I think these are going to be just fine and fill up the space with no problem the way that they are. So let's do that. You can see the soil in this garden bed is also pretty dry. It just continues to be fairly dry this time of year in our area. Tease the roots up a little bit here at the bottom because they do look a little bit like they're starting to grow around in circles. And then what I'll do is later today I'll come back and I'll just clean these up. Normally I do that when I first bring them home from the nursery, but I did not do that this time, so I'll have to do that. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, feel free to do that, because I do put pictures of my garden on there and I talk a little bit about certain plants that I see, which ones I really like. It's just kind of fun. I love seeing pictures of other people's gardens as well. Okay, I think that does fill in the space pretty good. This hosta gets so big. I might want another one though over here. So again, next year I'm gonna have plenty to divide from again. All right, I have one more plant we want to get in the ground today. One last plant to get in the ground today is this Lenten Rose. This one is called Frost Kiss Moon Dance, and I got it for $10. It was originally $26.99 on sale at my local nursery. And this one is obviously deer resistant, and I'm continuing to try to plant more and more plants that are deer and rabbit resistant, even in my back garden, because I want to make sure, boy do I get rabbits, and I want to make sure that I don't have to worry as much about them eating everything. We definitely spray, but it's a time commitment and it is a cost. So these are hardy down to zone 5, and they grow in shade to part shade. Some can actually take part sun or sun, but these are not that type. So these are some of the first to bloom in the spring, and these actually have outward facing blossoms, which is really nice. They're supposed to be an ivory color and they last a really long time. And I love the foliage on this plant. It's just really nicely marbled, and it goes really well with the foliage and will mirror the foliage of this other Hellebore that I planted over there. So we're just going to put it under this large Sum and Substance hosta, because that way it will definitely get plenty of shade, and it will bloom before the Sum and Substance hosta comes out. So it will provide for interest before we even get to see that hosta. just taking some of the top off. There's a lot of, sometimes you can get unwanted little plants that are in the top of nursery pots that have self-seeded. This one also seems to have a little bit of that mesh in the pot. This one looks like it's broken off, so that's good. And this one's very moist in the pot, so I'm not actually going to water that one in at all. And it looks like it has a really nice little tag in there, so I'm just going to stick it next to it to help me remember which kind it is. All right, well, I feel like we got a lot done today. I still have a lot more to do, but unfortunately I can't take you along with me for everything. Otherwise, I just wouldn't be able to keep up. But I hope that you enjoyed today's video and got a little inspiration and found some new plants that you might like. And you know, I love to hear your comments, so feel free to tell me which ones were your favorites or what you're going to plant this fall. Thanks again for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Bye!